something funny? Remember going into spring training when I reported that the management people at 115 Federal were intending to have one more move, what they described as their main move of the offseason. And remember from there, what was the only move they made? Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Pirates 3, Angels 0 last night in Anaheim, California. Easily the story of this one, again, was Andrew Heaney. After dominating the Nationals here at PNC Park, he did the same to the Angels. Didn't last as long, but 6 innings of one-hit ball, 9 strikeouts, no walks. Struck out the first 6 guys he faced. And he was doing it with these 90-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the pipe. And it doesn't get old. You're watching it. You can't process it. You don't believe it. But it continues to happen again and again and again. Normally, when that occurs, there's some sort of exceptional deception element to it. And Derek Shelton did acknowledge that Heaney's stuff was deceptive in its appearance to Anaheim's hitters. But there had to be more to it. Greg McAfee, our beat writer for DK Pittsburgh Sports, is out there covering the series for us in Anaheim. And he had a pretty neat conversation afterward with Joey Bart in the clubhouse. I'm going to play the whole thing for you here. It's just about Heaney's fastball and getting the results that it did.
Obviously, Andrew started off the game pretty hot. 6 strikeouts. So what made him so deceptive tonight? I mean, it seemed like they were 90-mile-an-hour fastball, kind of some all around the zone. Just kind of what makes him so deceptive on the mound.
Yeah, I think he's just he's funky, man. I remember facing him last year in Texas, and the fastball, like, it just plays a little bit odd. You know what I mean? It's different. And you know, he was nailing his spots. You know, he was working in well and you know, working the away rail too when we needed to. But I feel like he just kept the pressure on everybody and was throwing early strikes and, you know, making guys either swing or, you know, make a decision. And a lot of them were late.
Was it the movement of the fastball, or the location of it, like how it comes out of his hand?
Yeah, it's more like just, you know, the characteristics of the pitch. He's had the funky fastball. You know, he had the funky fastball before people really knew what it was. You know, 10 years ago, whenever he came in. So, but you know, he's been able to really use some other pitches to help his fastball out. You know, some off-speed pitches and some different angles and stuff. So overall, man, he's been really attacking the zone and really understanding how he's going to put guys away, and he's doing a really good job with that.
It seemed like you guys were kind of going high fastballs, kind of all the top of the strike zone, breaking stuff down low. Was that kind of the game of how you wanted to approach them?
Yeah. I mean, I think with him, it's just since he is a little bit funky, it's you know, just trying to throw strikes and mix pitches, and you know, that usually covers up, you know, some of his other pitches and makes them play a little bit better.
So Heaney's now 2-1 with a 1.72 ERA. He's been a pretty good pitcher for a while. The mystery of the marketplace, maybe the main mystery of the marketplace, at the risk of making a pun out of this, was that Heaney was available to the Pirates at all. Never mind Ben Cherington being able to sign him for 1 year at $5.5 million. That's weird, especially considering he didn't have an injury. There was no other issue that he was coming off of. Some guys just kind of get left out there. That's what happened with Heaney. Now, back to the thing that I had reported. When this conversation was had, and it was the day before pitchers and catchers had to report to Bradenton, I'm going to repeat this, that I was told that the Pirates had one more significant move to make in the offseason, and that it would be their main move. Well, of course, everybody, myself included, thought this was going to be aimed at the offense. How couldn't it be, given the glaring needs, not only at the time, but since then, and really till right now? It's not like the offense erupted last night either. One bomb from O'Neal Cruz and a sac fly from Brian Reynolds, and then Tommy Pham got an RBI insurance run in the ninth, home with a single of his own. But I had never ruled out that the Heaney signing, which occurred after, and it was the only move that was made after this conversation took place, would have been seen by the people on the inside as their main move of the offseason. I haven't gotten that confirmed. And honestly, at this point, I really don't care. I know what I was told. I reported what I was told. If they choose after the fact to say it was Heaney who was their main guy all along, look, they'd look even smarter in this specific facet than they do already. And I've already given what I think is appropriate praise for the focus on left-handed pitching. For whatever reason, it seems to be undervalued to a degree in the industry. And if you look at who the Pirates' best guys have been, you're talking about Heaney, you're talking about some good work they've gotten out of Bailey Falter, but you're really talking about the bullpen as applied to the lefties. I'm only focusing on the lefties here. Caleb Ferguson, Ryan Baracki, Joey Wentz has been decent. It's been a feather for them. And more important than any of that, than any of the individuals involved, the Pirates are, they're 10-15. But I'm not going to lie, they've already won 2 games out west, which is one more than I thought they'd get on this trip, because coming up after this is Dodger Stadium, where they're just traditionally, they don't just lose, they get slaughtered. So it's been an encouraging start. And for Heaney specifically, it's been an encouraging continuation. By the way, you knew I wasn't going to get through this whole episode without mentioning it. He was awful in spring training, abysmal. And it just never matters. It really doesn't, in one direction or the other. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Eric, who clearly could not resist firing this one in this direction. What are the odds, DK, that the bean counters tell Derek Shelton that it's okay to have the same lineup again tomorrow? For anybody who doesn't know, this was the first time this season, this game last night, that Shelton went with the exact same lineup back-to-back days. It's, truth be told, one of the few times he's ever done it. Now, he'll say, heaven knows I've asked him about lineups and lineup consistency countless times over the years, that if he had 9 Brian Reynolds, he'd have the most consistent lineup you'd ever see. And I get that. I look at the roster that he's got, and the only player to whom I would ever commit something day after day after day is Reynolds. But if you go with this lineup, what you're going with is the quote-unquote hot hands. And again, I don't want to overstate hot here. The Pirates scratched out 3 runs. They did have 11 hits, but 3 runs is 3 runs. The lineup, for anybody who missed it, I'm going to read it in order. 1 through 3 were O'Neal Cruz, Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen. 4, 5, and 6, and 4 you can laugh about, except that he's actually been swinging really well lately, is Emmanuel Valdez, then Joey Bart, then Ke'Bryan Hayes. And 7, 8, and 9, who've been the Pirates' most productive hitters so far in these 2 games in Anaheim, been Adam Frazier, Tommy Pham, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And, I mean, that's not a lineup that's going to do much for you over the course of 162. And I don't ever feel comfortable focusing on negative after a pretty nice win. And this is a pretty nice win for the club. But they're going to have to do a lot better than that, both from the roster standpoint and the performance standpoint, and, of course, the health standpoint. You got to get Nick Gonzalez back. You got to get Spencer Horwitz to do whatever it was that he was acquired to do. And not to omit this, your best players have to be your best players. And of late, Cruz, Reynolds, and Kutch have been exactly that. So, yeah, and on top of all that, the batting order, the lineups, listen, even if it doesn't have a real impact, and mathematically, analytically, there's a ton of evidence to suggest that it doesn't, if the players like it, and they do, if the players are happy to see when they show up at the ballpark the next day that their performance the previous night was appreciated and that it gets rewarded, then you have a little bit of something extra to it. Whereas Kutch gets, 3 hits, a homer, a couple RBIs, and he shows up the next day and the manager tells him, "I'm sorry, you're old." That's kind of a bummer. So if we're going to have a discussion or a debate about batting order, that's the one I'm willing to have, because that one I think is as real gets. But as far as, mixing guys up, who's 6th, who's 7th, who's 9th, and everything else, okay, 9th is pretty dramatic, but it generally doesn't matter all that much, and it really didn't matter last night. That was all about that guy on the mound. Who, by the way, I'd be remiss if I don't share this. This was a 2-hit shutout for the staff. David Bednar, Caleb Ferguson, and Dennis Santana each put up a 0, and Bednar in particular, I'm going to say it again, looked like himself working up in the zone. 2 of his 3 outs were Ks. That's what you want to see from him. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates, and we're going to be back with another one of these tomorrow.